Hello there, you beautiful people. My name is Willow, and welcome back to Supreme Commander Forge Alliance Forever for a Step-Stool Laddercast. And today, we're going to be casting the map Crossfire Canal. Not Canis at all. It's not even the same color. Don't know how I got that mixed up. But before we get into introducing our red and blue players respectively, I'd like to bring your attention, wow, I cannot speak today apparently. I'd like to bring your attention down to the buttons down below with the like, subscribe, bell, join, and super thanks buttons, and of course dislike if you don't like the video. I encourage it. And of course, leave a comment down below telling me how your day is going. With that out of the way, let's introduce our players, starting with the red glorious Aeon. Going first, land. We have kwbrd, and I'm going to call him Bird, because that's the only word I can find in that. Maybe kwbrd? Yeah, kwbrd. This is kwbrd now. And he is going first land and rocking this northern position as we move on to the south to see the first air start out from a blue Cybran, and his name is, of course, AltairHeavanfall. A very long name. We're going to call him, I would say Heaven, but we're going to call him Fall. No, we're going to call him Heaven, most likely. And of course, we have the map 54,000 reclaim, a lot for any map, but in a 1v1, it's just a big task to simply grab up this reclaim. It's hard enough to do it when you have an entire team, but when you have one person on each side, they have to be very efficient with their openers, and of course have to try and get as much mass into their coffers as quickly as possible, while also having the power to spend it. So we're going to need a lot of power production from both of these sides. When you see pros, they have engineers with lines of T1 power all across this central starting island. And of course, they are directly opposed to each other, so we have two large expansion areas for each side. These kind of snips of pizza that are so lovingly called that. And yeah, generally you're going to see a drop or a comm walk to every single one of these. So, with our explanation of the map out of the way, we need to tell you what Step-Stool ladder is. We have a lot of new people at the channel, and maybe they aren't sure about all of these series. Step-Stool means both of these players are below 1,000 rating, so it is a showcase of the lower level play. We're not going to see the likes of Nexus or UD here, but we will see these players brave enough to queue up for 1v1 at such a low rating, duke it out. First bomber, or not really first, but very, very early bomber, out from Heaven. Gonna have to keep an eye on how he approaches the micro here. Does he prioritize it enough? Of course, you can over-prioritize it, especially in a 1v1. It is your APM versus the opponent's APM, so you have to be a little bit careful. You can get carried away with a T1 bomber and fall behind in the long run if you just spend way too much time doing this and not enough time queuing up orders for engineers or setting up new factories or expansions. So, how is he going to handle this first bomber? We'll have to see. Overall, Bird a little bit ahead, kwbrd a little bit ahead on mass generation, but that is nothing to worry about right now for the blue Cybran as he comes in. Does pick up a singular kill on, no, he got 2 kills with that. There was an engineer and a radar there. Sure, he's going to be happy with that, as there is an anti-air on the field, so he needs to be a little bit careful trying to avoid it. You can see that Thistle in the background trying to chase down this horrible, horrible bomber. He does do a on-the-spot turn, which is always a little bit funny to watch with air units, to avoid that Thistle, and now he's just going to seemingly attack the mass extractor that he was nearby, which is a perfectly valid strategy. Probably going to be seeing an interceptor come out soon enough, as this bomber will eventually kill that off. It only takes 2 bombs, I believe, for the Cybran bomber to kill off a T1 mass extractor, and of course he could possibly kill off multiple. As long as he stays away from that Thistle, he'll be happy. The Thistle's gonna have to start trying to chase down this bomber again. It is so much slower though. The bomber is slightly going idle. It's gonna go down to the south and see what's going on. As we take a step back to see how these players are doing, kwbrd ahead on reclaim, but is a little bit, is also ahead on mass income, so he's going to be happy with that. T1 Bomber does, of course, go down, and there's the wreck. 72 mass. I'm sure he killed more than that. He killed a radar, he killed a T1 engineer, and he killed a T1 mass extractor. I'm sure that adds up to about 70, and also just slows down your opponent that ever so little bit. Has he been slowed down at all? No. In fact, he's going to be the first player to get a transport to another island. I don't know if you should call these islands. They're kind of peninsulae. But peninsulae, is that how you say, is that the plural of peninsula? Peninsulae. I like it. That's the new Willow word of the day. As he gets to the peninsulae, very, very spicy, very important. And drops off 2 engineers, which are going to sit here idly, as he has not quite queued up the factories yet, but that's okay. You can just relax. Okay, there we go. Factory going online. Don't know why I'm criticizing that. Pro players even do that from time to time. And he has the other 2 engineers on that transport going to go for the other island. So he's very efficiently expanding. The risk with this is, of course, what we're going to see here. We're going to see engineers from both sides on this expansion that is close to the blue Cybran Heaven. And he's going to need to be a little bit careful. He wants to make sure he wins this. I believe he's going to be outnumbered on engineers. So does, of course, he's going to land a little bit earlier, which gives him a bit of leeway. If he gets a factory up, he can very likely win this island. He needs to queue that factory the second these engineers land. Does he? Ooh, he doesn't, which is going to feel a little bit bad. The enemy transport taking a while to drop, though, is going to be unfortunate, and only drops 2 engineers critically. He does have the engineers run away from that transport, and the opposing engineers trying to make sure he does not get caught off with a reclaim order. And of course, kwbrd, also a bit slow on the orders, isn't quite building a factory yet. So it does seem as though, despite the a little bit slow reactions out from Heaven, he is not going to be too far behind. But a T1 transport dropping a singular engineer on the main kind of island over here is going to be able to drop right back here. We could see a nasty little fire base, or I guess it's not really a fire base, a nasty little production base built up behind Heaven, and that would be huge. Heaven taking the lead on reclaim. He is about 400 to 300 to 400, that's how I should say that, ahead, and he's ahead on mass generation total as he's got some T2 mexes up. kwbrd, seemingly struggling with expansion, has a lot of things paused in his main base, mainly mass extractor upgrades. Looks as though maybe he went for too many mass extractor upgrades, or maybe that's just not a priority for him right now. But he is going to be behind by a decent amount of mass generation per second. As hunters and flares are produced, this is going to be a bit of an unfortunate situation for kwbrd. He did, instead of dropping his other close kind of peninsulae there, he is instead deciding to drop here, and that aggressive drop means that he's going to get both. He's not going to get this expansion, and he's going to be a bit slower at getting the secondary expansion that he normally would get. Could open up a situation if Heaven scouts well enough to drop here and even contest 4 of these islands, but this is a bit lower rated. These players maybe not so confident in their abilities to do things like this, so he may just take the win there and use the extra economy he will inevitably get for that purpose, or for the purpose of just holding onto this island. It does seem as though a T1 bomber is going to come in. Would like to see a response out from Heaven. Needs to get his own inties onto the scene. He does have enough inties to somewhat fight this off. And as we see more bombers coming in for kwbrd, he could be going for a denial of this expansion, which is a valid option. The only downside to this is there's going to be a decent bit of reclaim here, so whoever does get it, and it will most likely be Heaven, will have a bit of an advantage. Does he muster the interceptors? He does. So it does seem as though he's going to be able to keep onto this island. That Cybran factory with its regeneration means that these bombs are going to be relatively ineffective against it. And the air going to be cleaned up for kwbrd. kwbrd not going to have very many interceptors left over. Critically, though, kwbrd getting into the Navy and getting into the Navy early. He's getting his feet wet, and he is going to be building boats. On this map, boats can be incredibly oppressive, especially if you can get some kind of missile launching going on. Of course, it's Cybran versus Aeon, so we don't really get any kind of mobile missile launcher on boats until Tech 3, but with the Torrent and the Plan B technically has those mobile missile launchers, although I'm pretty sure if you're building a Plan B, you have a much bigger missile in mind, a much bigger payload, as it were. And we finally see kwbrd getting an expansion to this western side of him, this western kind of peninsula, and he's going to be able to get himself set up with a little bit of another expansion, and he'll be pretty happy with that. Heaven massively ahead, though, at 47 mass a second to 30. He's nearly 20 mass ahead. Back here, the engineer that was dropped oh so long ago, seemingly forgotten about, and neither side paying attention to it, now going to start building up some factories to try and be a bit of a harassment force. No radar critically in the main base. If there was a radar maybe right here in the back, he would be able to see that, but he doesn't have one, and you don't generally expect to play like this. So I think kwbrd's best course of action here is try and keep this undetected for as long as possible. Over here in the center, T2 Air finished up for Heaven, and he's going for his second T2 Power. Do we have any tech up for kwbrd? He has T2 Land. Of course, he is Aeon, so he has that all-important hover that he can use to really abuse his opponent here. He can get up a lot of blazes, a lot of asylums, and a lot of those so sexy, I want to call them ascendants, but I'm going to double check. I should have just gone with my gut. Ascendants, those mobile flak, which are able to really deny air up until that T3 phase. They can really shut down torpedo bombers. Sure, you will lose some of your naval units to the torpedo bombers, but they will kill them in a relatively short amount of time. So that's going to be a bit dangerous if kwbrd does opt for it against his Cybran opponent, Heaven. We've had a relatively quiet first 11 minutes, and now Heaven is on double the economy of his opposition. His opposition does have a very stealthy play lining up here in the back. If this engineer was on an automatic reclaim move, maybe it would have seen this, but that engineer being idle does not give him the opportunity. Also, if he gets a T2 radar right here, he will be able to see it. And right now, Heaven just doing a little bit better on the expansion front, whereas kwbrd focusing a little bit more on the Navy. He is catching up a little bit in mass extraction from the ground. He's turning that oh-so-important mass into oh-so-important units and structures as he gets T2 mexes on his main base in mass. Neither player has fully expanded to one of these side islands. We're about to have one of our players finish it up, as Heaven is currently working on that last mass extractor, has an engineer on the way. There is a frigate over here in the middle, killed off an engineer or two from the looks of it, so that is going to be unfortunate for Heaven, as he is pretty much locked out of Navy now. He doesn't have it as an option. There's too much boat in water, there's too much pain coming, and this engineer is going to scout out the factories being built by kwbrd. Does he have a solution to this? He does have a land factory, so we could see some Medusa or Mantis spammed up. He also has T2 Air, which really gives him access to Renegades, which would shut this down pretty easily. But as it stands, kwbrd spamming out those flares. He's going to be able to get a decent amount of damage done as long as he spreads them out, sends them to different mass extractors. I'm sure there's multiple mass extractors now on the fringes of this main peninsula that are upgrading to T2. We can see 1, 2 here. We have a third mass extractor already at that T2 phase. Heaven did give a reclaim order, and he has scouted it, so he knows what's going on. T2 land is the option for Heaven. He's going to be going for that T2 land factory to set himself up to easily deal with this. Just a few rhinos. May also opt for a renegade or two, or even just go for T1 bombers to help clean this up, as he could build them pretty quickly. A mass extractor that was going T2 cleaned up by these flares, and more flares can cause more problems. If he shuts down this hydro, I don't believe that's going to affect him. He's on T2 power and building a T3 power. Maybe since he's building the T3 power, it'll be a little bit painful. It will. But overall, he's not too worried about losing a hydrocarbon. Although that flare, I'm sure, is super happy as it'll get a rank of veterancy. Only requiring 84 mass to get a rank of veterancy is very nice for the flare, although the proposition of getting a 5-vet flare is not nearly as scary as, say, a 5-vet monkey lord or something. It doesn't have the same impact on the game as one would guess. Another T2 mechs slated to die to the overwhelming number of flares. As long as he just doesn't, he might run past it and not kill it off. I guess reinforcements can always come in and get that. Rhinos showing up. A Cerberus, the best option for dealing with flares as long as it, at T2 at least, for structures, as long as it isn't shooting the ground, as we just saw. Another Cerberus going up. Would like to see these flares given an order to go clean up that T2 mass extractor. You could get a lot of damage. This flare over here is sitting on nearly 2 ranks of vet. Hero, little guy. We'll call you Jimmy. And I think Jimmy's about to die. Poor Jimmy. That's a very... F's in the chat for Jimmy, everybody. Oh, poor Jimmy. Overall expansions going better for Heaven, but kwbrd getting a little bit more done with his economy. He's kept that gap at about 20 mass a second. Total mass pulled from the ground or from reclaim in general is only about a 5,000 difference. So nothing huge as of yet. I guess 5,000 at 15 minutes is a lot more than 5,000 at 30, but you got to take those W's where you can get them, and Heaven really needs to come up with a solution to this. Another T2 mechs going down, really going to hurt Heaven. He does not want to be losing these T2 mechs. Although kwbrd's starting to get the point where maybe he's invested just a little bit too much. It's almost to the point where I would say a very cheesy strategy Heaven could do is let this stay alive and just keep his rhinos back and start reclaiming all of the flares that do eventually come forward. It would be a bit cheesy and a bit risky because your opponent has T2 land. If he goes for T2 land, he can fight your rhinos. I don't think any player in the world opts for that. It is such a weird idea to go for it, but it's not necessarily inefficient. I guess a 17 or 1800 is going to come into the comments and be like, well, actually, it's not all that efficient because you're going to be losing a couple of rhinos for every time the flares come in their wave. Well, fuck you. I like my silly little strategies and theory crafting. It's a theory, a game theory. As Aurora cross the river and assault the position of Heaven. Of course, another advantage of being Aeon is you do, of course, have Aurora. I was talking about the Blazes, the Ascendants, the Asylums, was ignoring the other A, the Aurora, which is now running headfirst to its death, but how can you blame them? They are, of course, made of wet tissue paper. As rhinos come in and stomp out the Aeon insurgency inside their lands, a flare is gonna get away, which is quite funny to me. If this flare kills off a T2 mechs, he is the new Jimmy. He is Jimmy the Second. Doesn't seem likely, as Heaven does know of that flare's existence with the T2 radar. Could get an engineer. If he gets the engineer, we'll call him Bob. As torpedo bombers are being used en masse, and all of them getting a decent amount of damage done as they kill off T1 Navy. T2 Navy has finished up for the red Aeon kwbrd, and kwbrd is just kind of chilling. He's sitting back. He's overtaken his opponent in mass generation, partially due to these killing of T2 mexes, and partially due to him just sitting on his island and ecoing pretty well, throwing a lot of mass into it. The torpedo bombers are going to leave a decent amount of reclaim here in the waters. Going to have to see if either player gets a hold of that. Speaking of reclaim, we started with 54,000. We're down to 51,000. So with all this fighting, we've managed to remove 3,000 mass from the field. And there is still a ton for both sides to reclaim across the map. Over here to the east, we have T2 engineers setting up Cerberus on this island. Just going to decide that the Aurora threat will be dealt with by the probably most cost-effective solution he has at his disposal. Interceptors in the interceptors in the middle, apparently. Interceptors in the middle, taking out torpedo bombers. I messed that one up on purpose before somebody in the comments says something. I was watching this Willow cast and all he did for like 20 minutes was talk about the comment section. Fucking comment! And I'll stop talking about the comment section. I don't know why I'm so aggressive. It's the weekly Willow cast where I'm very aggressive for some reason. But we're all having fun here, and I'm sure you all are enjoying the show put on by our two gladiators of the lower ratings. Aurora's over here on the western island getting substantial damage done. A few maxes, a hydrocarbon, some various structures going down. That hydrocarbon was never built, but don't call me a liar. As it seems Heaven's strategy has just been to get T2 on every island and build Cerberus, which is a valid one. If you don't want to have the APM of managing armies on every island, do that. Now then, Heaven has a strat bomber, which we will very quickly select and track as we wait for something more substantial to happen. Rhinos and Cerberus, more than enough of a counter to Aurora. And I think these players are going to hold on to their islands pretty well. The naval threat from kwbrd has been all but eliminated now, as the torpedo bombers have done their job admirably against the red Aeon threat. That strat bomber is still just sitting there, but I don't want to miss it because it could be huge, as there's only a few interceptors on the field. Does he know he has a strat bomber? Well, soon he'll have 2 strat bombers, which is literally 100% more strat bombers. Fun fact, one is half as much as 2. So 2 strat bombers, still not deciding to move out with them. I guess we'll wait until we see them doing something spicy. Scout flying over, confirming, yes, strat bombers would be very good. Oh my lord. Oh no, Heaven could get a huge blow here. So one thing we need to keep our eyes on, if Heaven goes for it, he can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 T2 pigeons. That happens, this game is almost assuredly over in favor of Heaven. kwbrd has gotten more mass generation, but you can't use mass without power. It's a critical part of this game, and needs to use these strat bombers. It's starting to hurt me. I don't try and rag on anybody in these lower rated games, as it is a bit I feel it's a bit wrong to rag on lower rated players, but I am trying to show you how devastating it can be if you just have that little bit more attention, a little bit more focus in your games. So take this as something you can apply to your games. If you start building strat bombers, you need to realize that he just cloaked the strat bombers. Did he do select all air and just click the cloak button? Okay, strat bombers heading out. I don't know what their orders are, but this is going to be massive. Let's watch these strat bombers as they stride across the sky, a menace to all. These revenants here to inflict unending pain and damage upon their opposition. And then they stop in the middle of the map. And then they move again! Let's see what these strat bombers can achieve. The trio, the 3 musketeers of death and destruction, the aerial reapers, as it were, as they trek across the map. They fly into a cruiser, the only place where there is enough AA on the map to maybe kill a strat bomber, and they go into it. There are now Swifties in the air. Oh, is he gonna get anything massive? He's going for a Mex? He gets a Mex in a factory. He gets the T2 land HQ. Oh, that could have been so much more brutal. Unfortunately, not able to get much value out of these strat bombers, and kind of just leaves a massive, he just leaves a massive reclaim for his opponent. 1600. Where'd the third one fall? Must have fallen in the water. Yep, that's going to be 800. A lot of mass now for kwbrd to reclaim, and it's right in his base, and he's already on top of it, already going to be turning that into a whole host of problems now for Heaven. It is to show you, it is about working smarter, not harder. Better target priority there could have resulted in crippling the economy of your opponent. Instead, he kills off some relatively insignificant structures for his opponent. T2 HQ, relatively easy to replace. And now his opponent can, of course, build those T3 power generators, which are so much less volatile with their higher HP pools, not as prone to being one-shot by any kind of air unit, or any unit in general. Very difficult to one-shot a power generator. Don't know if there is a unit in the game that can. Answers on a postcard, and don't say Yelona Os or Nuke Launcher. I will strangle you. I've always had a weird relationship. So, answers on a postcard. I have used that since before I watched Guile. I've used that phrase since I was a kid. I've heard it forever. But I don't want to use it in casts because I feel people will claim I'm copying Guile. And here's going to come all of the comments as I yet again go on a tirade about comments as we have another lull in the action. Trust me, this game picks up. I did review it. It is a very spicy game. We just have to wait for it. It's a slow burn. It's something for you to just enjoy. It's a very calming cast today. But all the comments are going to come in and be like, oh, don't compare yourself to Guile. You're your own thing. You've proven that. You've proven that you're... Yes, I know I'm not Guile, but that doesn't mean I still would rather avoid the criticism. Not that I'm afraid of criticism or anything. I'm going down a rabbit hole here that I really shouldn't. And somebody's going to be like, oh, you didn't talk about the game at all. What am I supposed to talk about other than the fact that I could rag on Heaven for not rebuilding these two mexes and not rebuilding mexes pretty much anywhere. If that mex has died, it has died to him. It is crossed off the Christmas list. It's getting no more presents. That mex is gone and out of his mind. It can never exist again. And that's why we love these lower rated players. Alrighty, let's go ahead and speed up the game a tad bit, because I do admit this is a little bit boring to watch. And, of course, not all games are going to be action-packed the entire time. And, of course, in 1v1, especially at the lower level, we're going to see these players kind of sit there and try and plot their next move, try and figure out what they want to do. Seems as though Heaven really wants to invest heavily into T3 air. He has another strap bomber on the field. He has ASF building up. His opponent has T3 air, but has mainly Swifties. I don't think there's a single ASF in that force, but that might be my eyes tricking me. Ras now on the way for kwbrd. And we have scouting going on. Let's speak about scouting. Intel not looking particularly great for kwbrd. I mean, he knows about the entire base, I guess. But he doesn't have a great idea of what's going on outside of the base. And when this power stall is done, we did see an Omni there. So when he is out of this power stall, which I'm assuming he's building a T3 tower very soon, a Monkey Lord now on the way for Heaven. That could be huge. And now as a scout flies over to contradict me from kwbrd, who is on a much better power budget, he is going to see that Monkey Lord. He's going to see everything here. And... right now, Heaven is currently got an Omni on the field, which is a very powerful tool, especially in 1v1s where it's only you. And the large naval force now of kwbrd starting to make its way south, starting to make its way towards the main base of Heaven. Now, critically, the naval force for kwbrd is Aeon, which doesn't mean it's bad, but does mean that it is going to have the unfortunate situation of not having those cruisers with mobile missile launchers. Of course, their cruisers a little bit better in direct naval combat, both for them and the Cybern, but unfortunately unable to get that siege at level 2 at Tech 2. So, with how all of this is ending up and how this is all going, it does seem as though the naval advantage not going to be so present. He is going to be able to snipe off more mexes than he was able to at T1. He's going to be able to deny more mass. Those mass extractors that were finally rebuilt, one of them already taken off the table again. And kwbrd sitting at 100 mass a second above his opponent. kwbrd is economically oppressive at the moment, and will be able to abuse that, I'm sure, very soon. He has the production. He's going to be able to produce a lot of Navy. Some Renegades coming in, abusing the fact that the Aeon cruisers, which I will admit are probably the weakest of the naval cruisers, have those missiles. The missiles really good at killing off the faster flying units, but not great at killing off these swarms of units. So those Renegades going to be relatively effective at killing off all of this. Would like to see some Ascendants mixed in for kwbrd, as we have this aggression going on. And now Heaven has lost a significant number of his exterior mexes. The core mexes up on the mountain of each of these zones are going to be relatively safe, but it's going to be difficult for him. He's still slowly building that Monkey Lord. One T3 engineer is all that it is committed to it, and that T3 engineer deciding that he is more than happy to build this Monkey Lord by himself. How long does that take? That takes 15 minutes. So if this gets no more assistance, then we are probably going to see another 10 minutes of that Monkey Lord building, which you don't see very often. You don't see one T3 engineer build an experimental very much less see one T1 unit build an experimental. And he is going to need to use that Monkey Lord to great effect if that does happen, because he is currently in a very rough position. Overall, kwbrd in a very strong position against this. He does have a T2, T1 force, eclectic mix of Auroras and Blazes now making their way to this expansion for kwbrd. Unfortunately, the nature of pathfinding and the way all of these units kind of group up and go around corners one by one are running into a whole bunch of rhinos that are just stacked on top of each other. The rhinos will trade very effectively into this. They even trade effectively against blazes. Blazes pay for their hovering abilities with a lot of HP. They have decent DPS, but they don't have a lot of HP, so they are not very tanky boys. And of course, the T1 PD here on this island going to be relatively effective. We're going to see some Medusa start being produced. Don't know if that's the best call here. The rhinos seemingly enough on their own to deal with this, and that should be good enough for Heaven to hold on to this position. More and more cruisers pouring out from these factories. It's going to get harder and harder to deal with this from the air. I did mention that the cruiser for the Aeon is not that great, but that doesn't mean it's not a cruiser. It's still very strong in its intended role, as long as you just have to get a few more of them with the Aeon. That entire force cleaned up, and he does have engineers in the area, and that is a huge amount of reclaim right there. 5,000 mass. I know it's not much when we look at the totals, but that is a large portion of what's left to build on this Monkey Lord that he could very easily shovel in to the gaping maw of that experimental's construction. Oh yeah, I'm sure everybody's very happy that I said the word gaping in the cast. Down here, rhinos running into more blazes, and Heaven just really struggling. He's consistently 100 mass behind his opposition. And kwbrd in a very strong position, looking to close out this game. He just needs to find a way to besiege this main island where all of Heaven's main production, of course for the Air Force, and most of his economy currently lays. There's a decent group of rhinos on either island to kind of stop this T2 force from being too oppressive. But it seems as though Heaven, unable or unwilling to defend the exterior mexes of his peninsula. He still has control of 3 peninsula, but it looks a lot worse than what you see from kwbrd over here, as he has managed to build himself up a relatively solid, stable base. He has a lot of patrolling units, just trying to make sure that he always has control of his islands everywhere, and he has a lot of vision of his islands, which is a bit underrated. Sometimes it's like, well, I have very little vision, but I have a lot of radar coverage, so I'm pretty happy. He's able to see pretty much everywhere. The blazes on this peninsula not going to fare any better than the blazes on the other one, as they run it into rhinos head first, and one by one, these rhinos going to very easily hold onto this island and these 2 T2 mexes, which I'm sure Heaven is more than happy to continue holding on to. Heaven seemingly APM locked. I'm not sure where all of his APM is going, but it's obviously not into re-expanding on these peninsulas. He needs to stabilize and give himself something more to work on, because he is currently working on what would appear to be a shoestring budget, as kwbrd very quickly catapults to nearly 200 mass ahead of his opponent per second. We could even at this point see a T3 naval transition, and torrents would be huge now for kwbrd, as torrents are relatively capable of sieging anywhere on this map. They have enough range to hit every single point on the map, and you could get a lot of them in these waters with the air control that he has now gained for himself. He does have an air staging somewhere. Oh, right here. Okay. I was about to say, how many of these are out of fuel? Because it feels like it should be a lot. It's very strange. 20 interceptors, 15 swift winds, and 20 coronas. Very interesting. And now that I said corona, it's going to be underneath this video. They're going to be like COVID-19 information. Well, now that I said COVID, it definitely is. Definitely. As we sit down and seem to strap in for a longer game, neither player quite at a position where they feel comfortable killing off the other. A strat snipe or a solace snipe, surprisingly, building up for kwbrd. Not sure why he's building solaces, as his opponent just doesn't have any navy. Torpedo bombers trying to be used to clean up the navy of kwbrd, and doing so quite successfully. Overall reclaim numbers, kwbrd twice as much on every economic metric. There is not a metric I can look at where he is not twice as much, if not more, ahead of his opponent. And right now we're seeing a large air engagement, the first large air engagement of its kind, as the Gemini of Heaven just destroy kwbrd's air force, which is going to be a big blow to the Red Aeon, because he was starting to have a situation where he might have enough air force to maybe contest and stop these torpedo bombers from dealing their horrible damage. These cormorants getting a lot of veterancy each. It's only 3 or 4 of them, and they're all at 4 to 5 veterancy. Of course, they still go down to a single cruiser, and you never get enough veterancy to just be able to face tank a cruiser. But they do regenerate health, and they will have those higher HP pools. Just that little bit more tankiness can be huge, especially on air units. A fully vetted Air Force can do quite well for itself against a Air Force without vet. Something you don't often get a look at, you don't often get the feel for, because air units are so much more expendable. As over here, on this island yet again, we're seeing another engagement between Rhinos and Blazes. The Blazes getting a little bit better situation here. Rhino's having some struggle with the train like the Blazes were having earlier. I still think that this is gonna be a hold for Heaven. He's gonna get up a Cerberus very soon. Cerberus gonna struggle a little bit more with the Blazes than it would have with the Aurora, but still an effective option, especially when you have some Rhinos to throw in front of it. Of course, the Rhino number is starting to dip, and this could be a bit dangerous. We have a lot of scouting going on. We have a lot, and I say a lot, I mean a lot of strat bombers. I don't know what happened to those solaces. Don't know where they are. They went somewhere. Maybe they got shot down. I have no idea. And the Rhinos in Cerberus gonna hold for now, but the question is at what cost and for how long? Because there's not many Rhinos left. There's only a couple of Cerberus standing in the way. A lot of these Blazes very hurt though. And once they get through the Cerberus, they're going to have to deal with PD. I guess they kind of outrange the PD, I believe. Even if they don't, it's still a little bit dangerous. Focusing down the Cerberus, meaning that these Rhinos are soon to follow once that's done. The Rhinos holding out valiantly in their last stand, but unable to hold off this position. T1 PD now being spammed up on this island. That is soon to be ousted. Heavanfall's dictatorship on this peninsula about to be destroyed. T1 bombers coming in for the most unsuccessful attempt at bombing run ever. And the Monkey Lord is 99% complete. Just need to finish the paint job and cut the ribbon as that Monkey Lord comes online, and that Monkey Lord's going to be critical in this match. T3 Naval HQ done. Could start seeing torrents coming out at any moment. That Monkey Lord just gonna sit there for a little bit as Heaven weighs his options and tries to decide where it could be best used. Maybe use it to reclaim this island, maybe send it around the east, try and be sneaky and get into the base of your opponent. Still using torpedo bombers to deadly effect here in the middle. I don't know if we have any of our original 3 heroes from earlier still alive. Would be hard to suss them out amongst the crowd. I will try to, of course, because I am a caster after all. Nope, not seeing it anywhere in here. It's okay. New heroes will be born. The Blaze is making the most ineffectual attempt to take this island I think I've ever seen. Really upset with the terrain. A real big disagreement with the rocks. They're gonna walk in, or I guess float in, and yeah, no, this is gonna go poorly. That's a lot of T1 PD. This isn't Cerberus. You can't focus those down one by one. You gotta... I might be the world's foremost blaze expert. I have maybe built more blazes in the past year than most players build in their entire FAF career. Blazes don't do well into T1 PD, especially if they don't outrange them. I don't know if the Blaze outranges a T1 PD for sure. I guess I can check really quick. There's also an attack going on down here, but it's hopelessly inept. It's not going to do anything. 24 range versus that of the T1 PD sitting at 26. So they don't outrange a T1 PD, so there is no situation where the Blaze is particularly good into them. Most T2 land units are bad into T1 PD. Very few of them outrange them, and most of them can't deal with the DPS still. It's when you get to T3 where you get units that can easily handle a T1 PD. And we have it built. We have the possible culprit to end the game built. A torrent. Now, of course, it's not optimal for kwbrd. His opponent is Cybran, which means that his opponent has really, really good tactical missile defense. But the thing is, you can pack a lot more torrents into an area than you would think. And these torrents are a big problem because each volley requires multiple TMD to deal with, I'm pretty sure. I don't think one TMD, even of Cybran, can stop the entire volley from even one of these. So, we could see a very real situation where he gets up 5, 6, 7 torrents and starts breaking through the base of his opposition. The Monkey Lord is critically starting to make its way around the southern side of the map. Sorry for my silence there. I'm going to try and go through and catch every time I'm coughing and such. And mute it out, so if I mention I'm coughing and there was nothing going on in the audio, that's why. And yeah, no, just my allergies have really cropped up again. That's the reason we didn't have a cast yesterday. I felt horrible whenever I went to go cast, and I couldn't get through a few sentences without coughing. But I'm going to make up for that by casting multiple times tonight. And hopefully we'll have casts through Saturday this week instead of Monday through Friday. With that channel update, I guess, out of the way, another thing that we can look at, large torpedo bomber force. This is something that kwbrd has to get control of. He absolutely, imperatively must get air control. Torrents are just like battleships. They take forever to die. Well, I guess not just like, they have a third of the HP of a battleship, but still. They take a long time to die to torpedo bombers, but that time is finite. It is not infinite. They cannot deal with torpedo bombers for a sustained period of time, and you need to be able to protect these. He's also building battleships, which I don't know. It depends on how often he's building battleships. He wants way more torrents. He's building battleships, aircraft carriers, and torrents in 1-to-1 ratio of each other. Technically 1-to-1-to-1. That is inefficient, to say the least. I think right now what you want most is those torrents. Building aircraft carriers, I think, is a good call. Building a couple battleships, because they do have longer range and can get rid of shields and hard targets, and maybe if they build their TMD too far out, you can get that as well. But your torrents are going to be the bread and butter of this composition. It's not something you get to see often or use often because the torrent requires absolute naval control. It is a very big, expensive target that does die very easily. So you have to have that naval and arguably air control to keep these on the field and employ them successfully. Right now, kwbrd in a prime position to do so. All of these strat bombers are making me worried. I don't know if this is enough to one pass, but 13 strat bombers is damn close to enough to one pass a Monkey Lord. The Monkey Lord is going to get up here. Do we have any T3 mass extractors? We do not. So this is just T2 mass extractors. This is very low stakes. This could go horribly for Heaven. This could be the biggest mass dump we have seen all game. And we have seen some mass dumps. Some dump trucks of mass. As the strat bombers are called to action to fight the arachnid menace that is Heaven's Monkey Lord. And here they come in 3, 2, 1. Does it live? Holy shit, it lives, but that is 2,000 HP away from dying and almost assuredly dies on the next pass without a rank of veterancy. Where are the strat bombers? They're coming in, but they get caught on the turnaround. They don't get a single bomb off. So this Monkey Lord is very close to a rank of veterancy, and if it gets it, it will be on a relatively healthy HP pool again. This Monkey Lord could be huge. A large air fight is kicking off, but the ASF of kwbrd are very spread out. The ASF of Heaven, not so much. They're in a deep... They're kind of grouped up very well. Maybe this will go in an advantage of kwbrd because he has the spaced out ASF and he's always firing. But it just seems as though this is not going to go well for kwbrd. kwbrd slowly losing the air fight, slowly falling apart. He does have torrents onto the field, and he is starting to siege the main base of Heaven. He's starting to fire those missile volleys out, and Heaven doesn't have any TMD critically, so this could be huge. But the Monkey Lord is also huge. We're going to have to go to split screen, and on the left-hand side, or the right-hand side, you know what? We're going to select this. We're going to track it. You can only track on one screen. So we're going to track this Monkey Lord, while on this side, we're going to be able to see what's going on in the main base. We're going to be able to track these torrents and their progress. The torrents, though, are going to be going down to torpedo bombers. The torpedo bombers are going to be huge here. Oh, no! He needs these torrents to work, and he's just not able to get it. Wow, that was a weird graphical bug. Sorry if you all saw that. The Monkey Lord did get its rank of veterancy up to 9,000 HP, is getting fired on by a battleship critically as it makes its way into the water. Might even be able to snipe off the T3 HQ if it can get the laser turned on in time. Does not seem like that's going to be an option, unfortunately, for the giant arachnid of these Cybrans. And the torrents have gone down, or at least I think one of them has. Can we see a torrent floating at the bottom? I couldn't tell you, honestly. As the Monkey Lord continues its rampage towards the main base, this is where the game will be decided. This is the most pivotal moment for both sides. Both sides might have the tools to deal with this. We have a battleship coming back. Battleship's very good at killing off experimentals. We still have a shocker. Oh, that shocker had an unfortunate fate. Survived all of the ASF flying overhead just to get lasered by the monkey, as the monkey is gonna create a compounding issue. The monkey is walking right through the AA line of kwbrd, and that means that kwbrd won't be able to deal with any kind of situation that involves his air force because he just doesn't have the AA to deal with it. Of course, there's a lot over the main base, but the Monkey Lord's going to slowly deal with it, and the Monkey Lord, of course, is going to be going to the main base. Shocker comes in, drops a big bomb on top of the Monkey Lord. Monkey Lord is at 3 ranks of veterancy, and it's going to get another one very quickly once it gets into this base. 2,000 HP, very low on HP. It has to get some big value kills. Gets 1, gets 2, gets a rank of veterancy. Oh, no, it doesn't. It's right on the precipice of a rank of veterancy. It needs it so desperately. Get that rank of veterancy quickly and get it now. The Monkey Lord gets a rank of veterancy back up to 13,000 HP, 135 HP a second. It's going to be very healthy very quickly as he tears through the main base of kwbrd. kwbrd does have a decent amount of torrents onto the field still. He could try and siege this base again. It seems as though he's building torrents no, he's still building it in the same ratio, but he has a second factory just building torrents and battleships. But the Monkey Lord just destroying the main base of kwbrd. And kwbrd in a difficult situation. He does have a nuke. It is almost loaded. Is there an anti-nuke in the base? It is, and it's loaded. He could try and maybe nuke the Monkey Lord, but it's in his base. You don't want to nuke your own base. I know your base dies either way, whether you nuke it or not, but it feels bad, man. That might be the best option for him, to just try and delay the game a little bit more. He has a winning strategy. He has the Tempests. His opponent doesn't have another Monkey Lord. His opponent doesn't have the capability to stop him. He just needs to delay the game. He needs this Monkey Lord to be deleted off the map. It's 14,000 HP. You could maybe get a prediction nuke. His nuke is ready. Is he going to fire it? This is going to be huge. We have so much going on right now. He's bringing the torrents forward, it would seem. He has two torrents available and at his disposal. The Shocker Strat Bomber coming in, but about as much time as it takes for it to drop a bomb is about as much time it takes the Monkey Lord to regenerate the HP it takes. And now the air grid for kwbrd is gonna go down. If you are gonna nuke the Monkey Lord, you have lost the time to do so. Now it is nearly pointless. I mean, sure, you could save the nuke launcher, but what is that worth to you in the long run? As it seems as though kwbrd was running a marathon and he was in first place the entire way, but like 5 feet from the finish line, he fails. Where does the nuke go? Where is it going? This is pivotal. He's sending the nuke down south to kill off the naval production. I think he still thinks he can win this game if he gets the naval production right, but the torpedo bombers have been so oppressive towards him this game. He's had so much struggles. He's managed to clean off this peninsula with the torrent, and it's just looking desperate for the Red Aeon, who has been sitting in such a dominant position this entire game. Monkey Lord, 121 mass killed. If you have arachnophobia, look away now, because this is one big spider. Oh my word. It's gonna go in and try and get the naval production, it would seem, as it's killed off everything on the main island save a few mass extractors. And kwbrd is going for possibly a torrent siege towards the main base in combination with aircraft carriers and battleships. He has a lot of cruisers now on the field. He has a lot of aircraft carriers. And aircraft carriers are like, their AA is like having a cruiser, but your cruiser has 27,000 HP. So it's a lot more difficult for torpedo bombers to deal with. So maybe building all these aircraft carriers really in the end is worth it. He's just using them like big cruisers. And he even has the normal cruisers to kind of assist. But he needs something to be able to deal sustaining damage to the main base, and right now there are rhinos being used to stop the Blaze incursion. Very happy to see another Aeon player finding some success with the Blazes, but has had just as much failure with them. The battleship could kill off these rhinos, although I don't think the Blazes will play a huge role here. The torrents meandering their way forward. Once they get in range of the base, it will require a lot more TMD to be built. He's got 4 torrents, 5 torrents, 6 torrents online. He needs to bring them to the base. The Monkey Lord, critically though, is going towards the naval production where kwbrd's comm is. Does Heaven know that that's kwbrd's comm? I don't think he even knows. He has not scouted this. He is gonna, by happenstance, find kwbrd's comm. And the Monkey Lord has torpedoes. They are not great, but they are more than enough to kill a comm. And the only hope that he would have to get out is a transport. And there's a huge air force sitting right here and one at the main base to protect him, or to stop him from doing so. So kwbrd is now on a timer. kwbrd has to win this game within the next couple of minutes because that torpedo launcher will be enough. You can already see the HP going down. We're going to have to go to split screen again. I know you all hate it, but this is the best option I have for showing you all what's going on. The main base now under the full siege of kwbrd. 3 torrents about to be in range. Many more will follow. But the Monkey Lord critically has just walked past the comm. He walked past the comm. He didn't care about it. Oh no! Heaven making a huge mistake. I don't think Heaven can hold off this attack. If these battleships can even kill off a few TMD, it's going to be huge. The TMD already struggling with just half of the available torrents firing. kwbrd has escaped death. He's just managed to make himself... He used the Jedi mind trick. This is not the ACU you're looking for. As the Monkey Lord is going to go all the way up here, it's going to try and kill off the expansion. And the torrents are going to start sieging, and their damage will come in. And he can also put torrents at different points along the side of this, and it's going to make it to where the TMD is going to have trouble focusing. Maybe not as much of an issue with the Zapper, where it doesn't really aim. I mean, I guess it kind of does. It does have that turret traverse. But overall, it's just starting to look a little bit dire for Heaven. And he needed that Monkey Lord to just put that constant pressure to put a clock on kwbrd, because kwbrd has all the time in the world, it would seem, to siege this base. And he is still on a decent-ish economy. He doesn't have a great power production, but he has plenty of mass to go around. He's not stalling power, so you can't rely on that. He's still building what I would assume to be torrents and aircraft carriers and battleships, and these are difficult things to deal with. As the Spider continues to try and ravage through the base, we're going to go ahead and go back to the end screen. We have a ton of torpedo bombers coming in. He didn't forget about the comm. He just decided he's going to kill it in a different way. The torrents would eventually break through this, but I think it's over. Unless he gets out of the water right now, he has to give the order like 10 seconds ago. No, he's dead. kwbrd almost used the torrents to overcome his arachnophobia, his inability to deal with spiders. But he's gonna die to the overwhelming force that is the cormorants that have been so prevalent this game, that have been able to push this game to its limit, that have saved Heaven so many times. It's been his shield, and now it will be his sword. But wait, there is a cruiser! Maybe the cruiser can kill off enough cormorants. The cormorants weren't enough to one-pass the comm. A lot of them are going to drop a second time, but is it going to be enough? He's going to be down to 2,000 HP. It's a nail-biter. Oh, he survives the second wave. Are these 2 cormorants going to be enough? The next cormorant drops a bomb. Is it going to be enough? And yes, it is. And Heaven, on death's door, manages to win the game in one of the closest games I've ever seen on Crossfire Canal. And we end on that banger. Thank you all for watching. People say they like my recaps at the end, even though nobody seems to watch them. I'll do a recap. Overall, I feel that Heaven lucked into his win. His opponent didn't respond properly with his ASF with the strat bombers. I think if the strat bombers, if you bring your ASF to screen for those strat bombers, there is a chance that 2 or 3 of them get a second drop and kill off the Monkey Lord. Even after that, I think that kwbrd bungled multiple things for Heaven to win. Heaven was the luckiest man on Earth. Heaven did not deserve the win as much as it might seem. kwbrd, even after the Monkey Lord bungled, he had multiple chances to survive this game and win. You can see right here, he's sieging down the base. The siege is working. The torrents are taking their toll. Another torrent, I think, just came off the assembly line, is going to join the siege. He just needed to keep his comm safe. How do you do that? You stand underwater, but close enough to the land that you can get back onto land. If your opponent goes for a large torpedo, I thought that, personally, Heaven would use the Monkey Lord. You can use the Monkey Lord there to kill the comm. I guess maybe you could use the engineers to try and out-heal the Monkey Lord's torpedo torpedo damage, but that's neither here nor there. So yeah, that's my recap. Heaven, super lucky, and I hope that he continues to play the way he does, because it was actually quite actually it wasn't a very entertaining style, but it ended up with a very entertaining win. Thank you all for watching. You've been beautiful. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye!